Hello everyone, Fox here, and it's time to talk about the apocalypse, the upcoming apocalypse, the second apocalypse in the apocalypse. It's Choose Your Own Apocalypse, the update coming out on the 26th of March 2019. This will increase the difficulty of the game, giving it 3 different modes. You have your standard mode, you have the slightly harder mode called the Dread Zone, and the much harder mode called the Nightmare Zone. And what we're going to do is do a little bit of theory crafting, and I'm pretty sure this will be valuable regardless of when you listen to it, before or after the patch comes out. That said, some of the information could be obsolete based on any changes they make after I post this, but I think the primary ideas will be just fine. So what I want to do is talk about the theoretical strategies that we can use, and as I said, I'm pretty sure they will be practical for getting started in the Nightmare Zone, and then I want to finish up with just some random ideas I've been thinking about how to survive more effectively in this new difficulty. So let's get started. I think the first thing that you should be doing, and the first thing you need to know, is that the legacy boons, the beating the game effects you get from all 4 of the different leaders, they do not carry over into Dread or Nightmare zones. And that means you need to re-unlock them. So do not send your primary community, your best community, into one of these zones because they're not going to get their boons. Instead, what we want to do is basically send in these shock trooper communities, these spearhead communities, kind of disposable communities that you're going to use just to get the unlocking done before you actually commit a long-term community into the Nightmare Zone. And the reason for this is quite simple. Whenever you beat the game, that community comes to a close and the characters are added to a pool of survivors that you can use in a following game, but you can only pick up to 3 of them. They will carry over any of the equipment that you left them with, but effectively, the community that beats the game is dissolved. So you wouldn't want to send a real serious community in when you're just trying to unlock the boons. No, you just want to get some people in there with some preparation and try to unlock them as quickly as possible. And here comes my first strategy. I don't want to waste too much time prepping up communities. I'm actually just going to go in there naked. I'm going to start a fresh community in the Nightmare, but I would say this is probably inadvisable, so here's what I want you to do. Create a community, one of these disposable assault trooper communities, and I want you to pick the Warlord and the Traitor legacies. The reason you want these legacies equipped in your standard community that you're going to send into the Nightmare is because they basically can transfer those legacies over, because the Warlord legacy and the Traitor legacy, their effect is they give you a one-time down payment of resources that are added to your inventory, and your inventory transfers with you into the Nightmare difficulty. They don't really do anything else besides that. The Warlord boon, it gives you a down payment of guns, ammo, and a whole bunch of grenades, like 20 grenades, while the Traitor legacy gives you a one-time down payment of 4,000 influence, and you do get a special allied enclave, but they are temporary. But the thing is, those are going to transfer over into the Nightmare difficulty. The 4,000 influence, the guns, the ammo, and the grenades, that'll transfer with you because it's part of your inventory, and since those legacies don't do anything else, yeah, you pretty much have those legacies unlocked. It means you pretty much gain all the benefit from them, even though you don't have them unlocked. But if you want to go a little bit further, you can. Remember, I don't think it's important to get like super OP and then transfer over into the Nightmare difficulty, because remember, this community is going to get dissolved. But if you do want more, here are some of the things you might want to think about. Maybe you want to get some extra survivors because the bases do have a survivor community minimum requirement between 4 and 8. You might want a survivor that has the mechanic skill so that you can easily repair your vehicles. You might want to farm a bit of influence so that you can get into the new Nightmare difficulty and then buy the base you want immediately and have some influence to spare. You might want some supplies, like get about 25 supply of each category and then fill up your vehicles. Yeah, get some vehicles too and fill those up with some rucksacks. In particular, you're going to want ammo. And that's because you're going to need a lot of explosives to rapidly destroy the Plague Hearts. There will be more Plague Hearts and they have more health in the Nightmare difficulty, but in the base difficulty, explosives were the best answer for them, and I don't see why explosives would not continue to be the best solution for destroying the Plague Hearts. Other supplies you might want to stock up on are just parts, like a ton of parts, so that you can repair your weapons and keep your vehicles repaired efficiently. Medicine, having a good supply of medicine in case you get infected and need to cure your members. A handful of plague samples couldn't hurt, since you're going to need to make the plague cures out of both medicine and samples. Obviously, any explosives you can find or create ahead of time, the more explosives, the better. Any guns you can find, especially like decent guns or a crossbow, something that will help you preserve your ammunition. Any mods. Mods can be kind of hard to find at times. Maybe you want a heavy ammo press so that you can kill juggernauts more effectively. And if you really want to go for it, red talon facilities, but that might be a bit overkill. But they will transfer into the game. Next, when you beat the game, remember that your surviving characters are added to like your super list of characters that you've beaten the game with, and they should maintain whatever inventory they have when they beat the game. So just before you launch the final mission, you may want to pick your top 3 characters and load them up on the rarest guns that you found that you plan to use, any bombs that you found, and so forth. You could also, if you have a friend that'll help you, you could transfer, that'll take a little while, but you could transfer the items to a new community. But that might be a bit overkill. I'm not sure if that's necessary. As far as the legacies go, I would recommend completing the Warlord and the Trader legacy first, because then you could just start directly into the Nightmare mode with those legacies active and have that immediate jump start. But that's assuming that you get comfortable with the difficulty and that you don't feel like you need to have that extra preparation, like the 8 community members to begin this huge assault. Otherwise, it shouldn't really matter the order in which you actually unlock the boons. And those are the changes that I think are very time efficient. You're not going to be spending the time to get this Omega community like 40 days into the base game that you transfer in just to complete one of the legacies. You should be able to do it in a pretty timely manner and unlock these boons efficiently, unless Nightmare winds up being like insanely hard and it does require an Omega community. But here are some just random thoughts that I've been listening to in the dev stream, just ideas I've been thinking about what's going to be important in the Nightmare difficulty. First, I think stealth is going to be really strong, mainly because they made it so that guns are louder. Even with a silencer, guns are much louder, and the zombies are going to be able to hear it at a farther distance, and they remember sounds and will chase you way further. But even worse is they nerfed distractions like the firecrackers. They no longer distract zombies that are already after you. So they only work if they are unalerted, which means you have to be sneaking around. Another thing to keep in mind is that there will be armored hordes. Yes, entire hordes that are made out of SWAT or army zombies. And armored zombies are resistant to fire. You cannot burn them. So I think running them over with a vehicle is probably going to be one of the better options, unless it's not an extremely large horde. But a horde of like 15 armored zombies, even in decent melee combat, that could be a real pain in the ass. Also keep in mind that all juggernauts are upgraded into plague juggernauts. There are no regular juggernauts, and they also are fire resistant. They're going to be a problem because they make so much noise, and you can't use the firecrackers to keep the regular zombies distracted while you fight the juggernauts, and we have seen juggernauts in groups of 3 in the streams. Also, these juggernauts are capable of infecting you with plague, and they can kind of do it incidentally because when they pound the ground, they create these bursts of plague. So they don't necessarily need to get a direct hit on you in order to begin causing the infection to build up. And remember that the time to kill on the blood plague infection is much faster, 30 minutes in the dread zone and 10 minutes in the nightmare zone. So you might want to hang on to a plague cure on all of your characters when they go out into the field just as standard equipment. Lastly, I think that vehicles are still going to be a really good way to kill zombies, and as a result, I also think they're going to get the crap beat out of them, so I think a mechanic is going to be mandatory, and maybe even an auto mechanic, which is one of the advanced options, but certainly a mechanic at the least. I think having the mods for the medical facility, the cleansing station, or preferably the sanitization machine, which makes you recover from blood plague infection faster. The cleansing station is 25% faster and the sanitization machine is 50% faster. I think those are going to be super useful. But also just having a pretty big community to rotate through multiple characters so that they can rest from injuries and infection will be useful. But remember that they do eat more food now, 1.5 food per community member. So having someone with knowledge of agriculture could be very important, if not essential. But hey, that is it for my thoughts about what you can do for preparations into the Nightmare difficulty. Certainly there would be more you can do that I have not covered, but that's just to get you started thinking about what you can do. Let me know down in the comment sections what strategies you think will be useful, or if you went into it after patch day, what strategies did not work. But that's that. Like this video if it was interesting or entertaining. Subscribe for future State of Decay 2 content, and remember that you don't have to be good to get good.